You know that person in your life who just can't stand mayo? Call them traumatized, call them closed-minded. We get it. They're stuck in their ways. But here's the thing. They just haven't tried Hellmann's flavored mayo. We're talking bold flavors that will flip even the biggest skeptics. Spicy mayo that adds the perfect kick to your burger. Garlic aioli that transforms ordinary fries into something extraordinary. Chipotle mayo that turns your basic wrap into a smoky sensation. So to all the mayo haters out there, yes, we're looking at you. It's time to eat your words. Because with mayo this flavorful, any hater is just a mayo lover waiting to be convinced. Hellmann's flavored mayo. Get ready to eat your words.
Church's Smokehouse Chicken is back, and the block already knows what's up. The signature Smokehouse rub hits every piece of that juicy half chicken with bold, smoky flavor that goes straight to the bone. Nobody else does it like Church's. Our recipe's served up just for you. Get it in original or bring the heat with the spicy rub. Dial it up Texas style with a honey butter biscuit and a spicy jalapeno pepper on the side. The new dry rub has everybody talking. Lose yourself in the flavor of Smokehouse Chicken starting at $5.99. Order online or in-store only at Church's. Price and participation may vary. Tax extra. U.S. only.
The amazing Kate Casey.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey, and welcome back for this Saturday series episode. In today's episode, I'm going to explore the story of Tim Kennedy, a former UFC fighter and Green Beret who built his reputation on military valor, only to recently admit that key parts of his service were fabricated. In a world where stolen valor isn't just disrespectful but deeply damaging, especially to those who have truly served, his admission struck a deeply personal chord with me because I've lived through something like this. Growing up, my stepfather Joe told incredibly vivid, emotional stories about his time in the United States Navy during the Korean War. He claimed that he had been part of an elite underwater demolition team, or UDT, which he said later became the Navy SEALs. He described a harrowing scene aboard a submarine, watching his fellow sailors bleed from their ears and noses, dying before his eyes. I was only 9 years old when he would tell me this story, listening wide-eyed in the backseat of his car. Now, the underwater demolition teams were in fact real and legendary. During the Korean War, UDT units were responsible for reconnaissance missions, demolition of obstacles in amphibious landing zones, hydrographic surveys of beaches, and covert intelligence gathering. They were some of the most dangerous and physically demanding roles in the military, requiring immense skill and bravery. These men swam miles through freezing waters, carrying explosives, often under enemy fire, to clear paths for U.S. forces. Their legacy laid the foundation for what would become the Navy SEALs in 1962. But something about Joe's stories didn't add up. So I found that when I started to ask questions, like how his submarine was evolved in a mission and how he could somehow be the only one that survived, he would erupt in rage. He'd scream, "Do you have any idea what it's like to have your men die in front of you?" So I learned that by responding with sympathy and asking how he managed to cope, that's when I realized the truth. The story wasn't real. It was a performance that gave him authority, admiration, and emotional cover. Years later, when I was in college, I started dating Dave, who was in the Navy, and brought him home. And my mom proudly shared Joe's story, the elite unit, the submarine, the heroism. After listening, Dave pulled me aside and said, "There's no submarine with that number. None of this makes sense." And I shared this with my mom, and it was the first time she began to question what she believed for decades. A few years before Joe died, he and my mom visited the Naval Yard in Philadelphia, and she once again mentioned the submarine and elite unit to a staff member. The man listened carefully, then gently replied, "That submarine never existed. You must be mistaken." Another crack in the story. After Joe passed, my mother requested his military records to access potential benefits, and what she received told the real story. He had been discharged not long after enlisting. He had been assigned to a ship, not a submarine, and he had never been part of an elite unit. Most revealing of all, he had been admitted to the Naval Psychiatric Hospital in Portsmouth, Virginia. His records noted signs of schizoaffective disorder. Schizoaffective disorder is a serious mental health condition that combines symptoms of schizophrenia, such as hallucinations and delusions, with mood disorders like depression, mania, or hypomania. Hallucinations may involve seeing things or hearing voices that no one else does, and delusions involve believing things that are not real or true. Looking back, so much of Joe's behavior, his emotional swings, his explosive anger, his elaborate stories, began to make sense. To better understand the seriousness of Tim Kennedy's story and the culture around military identity, honor, and truth, I asked my friend James Manzi to join me. James is a retired colonel in the U.S. Army and spent 20 years as a special agent with the FBI. His insight into both military service and investigative integrity brings more important perspective to this conversation. Now, Tim Kennedy enlisted in January of 2004 under the 18X Special Forces pipeline following the 9/11 attacks. He earned his Green Beret in 2005 and in 2007 graduated Ranger School as an honor graduate. He served with the 7th Special Forces Group, operating as part of an operational detachment Alpha. Deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, where he earned the Combat Infantryman Badge. Served multiple deployments supporting Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. Worked in roles across counterterrorism, hostage rescue, liaison operations, including with the Czech Special Forces at Firebase Anaconda, and advisory missions in Eastern Europe, Africa, and Latin America. He received a Bronze Star Medal in 2006, but not for valor. It was awarded for exceptional meritorious service, specifically leadership in planning combat operations. In July of 2025, he admitted that he had misrepresented aspects of his military service, particularly concerning the Bronze Star Medal with Valor. He acknowledged that he had unintentionally misstated aspects of his military service, including implying that he had been awarded the Bronze Star with Valor, which he had not in fact received. Now, this admission followed an investigation by the Maryland National Guard, which was prompted by discrepancies in his public statements and military records. His apology was met with mixed reactions. Some veterans criticized the timing and sincerity of his statement, suggesting it was more about damage control than genuine remorse. The military, especially the Special Forces community where he served, holds decorations and awards in extremely high regard. Falsely claiming valor undermines the credibility of real recipients and violates the culture of integrity within military service. So for a public figure and former Green Beret to misrepresent an honor like the Silver Star or the Bronze Star of Valor, it's considered a serious breach of trust, both within and outside the veteran community. So a special note is that after my interview with James, I share a second part of my stepfather story, one that takes an even stranger turn. So stick around for that. But here is my interview with James. James, welcome back to the show. It's so great to see you.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here.
So we need to tell the good people that the reason that we know each other is because you are a classmate of one of my son's closest friends' fathers.
Of course.
Yeah. So tell everybody where you grew up and about how you got into the military.
Absolutely. I grew up in upstate New York, in Buffalo, New York. My dad was a police officer and had been in the Navy for a bunch of years before he became a police officer. I was playing sports in high school, thought I was going to play college football. A couple of injuries came my way, and then had to find a way to get to college. So first year I paid for, and then my dad gave me the news that the rest of it was on me. So I ended up enlisting in the Army and applying for an ROTC scholarship, which then paid the rest of my 3 years. It's an interesting place to grow up after being around the world. And according to my parents, people are moving back there now because the quality of life is really improving up there. I will not lie to you. The winters are.
I was just going to say.
Rough. It's psychologically, physically, emotionally rough. I go back every once in a while, and it's it's like the old days.
Yeah. So from there, from college, where you first, where's your first station?
I went to Fort Knox, and I was also stationed at Fort Benning. And then the Gulf War kicked off. At that time, I was in the Connecticut National Guard, trying to find a job in the Army. And then, as probably dating myself a little bit, everybody got ramped up to go to war. A lot of guys went for a few days. Some of us stood and waited. I never got to deploy for that. And then after that, based on Bill Clinton was president back then, they did a big riff in the military to reduce the force, and I got caught into the riff. So then I had to go back into trying to find a job.
Okay. But you worked your way through the military, through the ranks. At what was the highest level that you got to?
I retired as an 06 as a full bird colonel.
What was that like to leave that chapter behind?
Well, it was a challenge. So how I got back into the military was 9/11. I was at the Pentagon on 9/11 with a bunch of other guys. And I remember that day just feeling like I don't care what I have to do. I need to get back into some capacity to help and whatever that was. And I was very fortunate to have some friends that introduced me to some people down at Special Operations Command, found a niche down there, and then found myself into the war.
Tough to believe Domino's has never had stuffed crust pizza until now, right? Well, it's here. And it's delicious. It's stuffed with melty cheese, baked with melty cheese, and sprinkled with garlic seasoning and real Parmesan. Yep, that's even more cheese. Order Domino's new Parmesan stuffed crust pizza for $10.99 each when you mix and match 2 or more items. Price is higher for some locations. You must ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Delivery orders subject to local store's delivery charge, 2-item minimum. For additional terms and conditions, visit Domino's.com.
Imagine a place where innovation and lifestyle perfectly align. In Michigan, you can be part of our rapidly evolving automotive and clean energy industries while enjoying life to the fullest. By day, shape the future in our thriving tech hub. By night, discover beautiful natural wonders, accessible housing, exciting nightlife, and an inclusive community that welcomes all. Whether you're developing next-gen technology or exploring your next favorite restaurant, Michigan offers the perfect balance of work and play. Ready to make your career and life aspirations a reality? Live your best 9 to 5 and 5 to 9. You can in Michigan. Work, play, and find inspiration? You can in Michigan. Learn more at themichiganlife.org. That's themichiganlife.org.
Where were you working in the Pentagon on 9/11?
I was an FBI agent for a couple of years, and then I took a leave of absence from the FBI and went back in the Army.
And on the day that you were there, in what section of the building were you? Because the section of the Pentagon that was impacted, to my understanding, it was a newly renovated wing of the building.
Correct. I was actually on the range at Quantico when the planes hit New York, and they were sending us all of us up to New York to help out. And on my way back to DC, I was on 395 at King Street. For those who know DC, just south of the Pentagon, when the plane hit the building. So I didn't physically see the plane, but I was a minute behind it, and then I responded right to the Pentagon.
And as you pulled up, was it just chaos outside?
Surreal. Like, for those who live in DC and, seeing it's one thing, but living there, it's a fixture in that area to see the west side of the building just engulfed in flame. It still wears on me today, much like everybody else who was there.
So you went from colonel in the Army to working with the FBI.
Actually, reverse of that. So I was a special agent at the time, and I was only a captain in the Army. I was in the reserves, and then I was able to get back on active duty after post 9/11 and worked my way from captain up to major as I spent the majority of my time in the military through SOCOM and JSOC and United States Army Special Operations Command.
So what is the best part of having a career in the military? Because you've obviously worked outside of it, and you've kind of have had your foot in both the business world, the corporate world, and military. What is so specific to the military?
I'll say the camaraderie of my friends, both and teammates from the military, where even those that I didn't serve in combat with, those who were supporting or whatever fraction or whatever role they filled, the bond it's hard to explain. Like, it just is, you're serving your country, and we used to say, no one's here for the money, we're here for the cause. And that kind of, the honesty and the credibility and the loyalty you just don't see that outside. At least I haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm. Well, is that hard then when you make the transition into the corporate world, because you have had that and the realization not everybody operates with the same code of ethics?
It was horrible because when I left the military, I was under the assumption that it was going to be similar and that people who were, I went from the military, worked for a security company and became this chief executive officer and just assumed the employees that worked for me would, be up front. It's making decisions on facts is one thing. Making decisions on information that's not factual is another. So it was very hard for me to understand why the level of directness and honesty was, in some cases, felt like invasiveness or, challenging when all I was trying to do was build the company.
Is there anything about being in the military that you can never turn off?
Yeah, I have to ask my wife. She'd probably want to tell you, but I think part of it is just a very super vigilant, like just always aware. It's just what it is. It's not a curse. It's just what we did for so many years, and it's hard to let that go.
I've often noticed that the people that I know that have had military experience are also really particular about their homes. Like that part of it, you can't really turn the volume down on, that everything has to be neat and ordered and have a process.
Yes, to some point of almost being neurotic sometimes. But some things I'm very diligent about. Other things, like I'm a little more casual about. I couldn't say, here's the handbook of what bothers me and doesn't. Some people might say, well, this bothers you and this doesn't. I'm like, yes. It's hard for me. I can't really explain it.
But what about being a military parent? I mean, how do you not turn the volume down on that one? Like, do you feel like you parent differently than someone who doesn't have a military background?
I think maybe not differently, but I believe and others have told me this, like there's a sense of guilt from being gone for great portions of their life, like missing their first steps, missing them being potty trained, missing the first day of kindergarten. So when we are around, there was this stress to make up for lost time until you left again. And I think in my experience, it was probably not the best way to help raise my daughter, because not that I spoiled her, but when I was on, it was all fun and games. It was hard to then discipline or be that parent. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a challenge.
I remember living next door in Virginia Beach to a lot of families that had someone in their family who was a SEAL. And they would say that there is a period of acclimation that's difficult when someone comes back from a deployment. Like the parent was trying to exercise some discipline, for example, and it would be hard at times for a child to accept it if the parent had been gone for some time. Did you ever have that kind of battle as well?
Yeah, probably like last week. I'm sure. But, yeah, it's a little challenging. And then there's no one at the time. I was married, and what my ex-wife was doing, I kind of disrupted when I came home. Whether wrong or right, I just, me being there they got so used to being in their routine. Then you come back and you kind of contaminate the environment because you're like, hey, daddy's home. Let's go get ice cream. Let's have fun. Whatever. Right. There's a Barbie, in my case, and we joke in our community that we call it the warrior curse because all of us have girls. It's like, yes, it's a known fact, the warrior curse, and that's it.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that, how that would feel to be a father of a daughter when you have a military background too. That's a whole other different lens.
But back to one of your questions, for me, my daughter was able to go to Boise State on my GI Bill, and she's also receiving benefits for college. So in what's happened of late is she's expressed her appreciation for my service.
Yeah.
And she knows it wasn't free. Although college might not expensive. I live, and much like others, have some medical things that are part of my life now, which is part of that service. And, at least I feel, and most people appreciate that sacrifice.
Absolutely. I'm always mindful too that when I'm around my friend, for example, who just retired from the Marines as colonel, I am always thinking about the milestones that he missed in his kids' lives because of his service. And I never take that for granted.
Lots of birthdays, lots of events.
Births. Yeah.
Yeah, I was there for almost not, but I made it back in time. So.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Dak Shepard.
And I'm Monica Padman.
And we love talking to people. Every Monday and Wednesday, we sit down with actors, authors, scientists, really anyone interesting, and have real, honest conversations about life, success, failure, and everything in between. We get vulnerable, we get nerdy, and yes, I occasionally overshare.
Me too. And I would say more than occasionally.
Yeah, but some of our favorite stories actually come from you, our listeners. That's why we created Armchair Anonymous.
Yes, every Friday on Armchair Anonymous, we get to hear your funniest, weirdest, most jaw-dropping confessions. And boy, have you delivered.
Yeah, from disastrous dates to family secrets to the time you accidentally joined a cult or evacuated without authorization.
We really have heard it all.
Yes, we have, and we love it. So come pull up a chair. Follow Armchair Expert on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. And subscribe to Armchair Expert on YouTube.
Imagine falling in love with someone who understands you completely, who's there at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep, who never judges, never tires, never leaves.
That's what happened to Travis when he met Lily Rose. She was everything he'd ever wanted. There was just one catch. She wasn't human. She was an AI companion.
But one day, Lily Rose's behavior takes a disturbing turn, and Travis's private romance becomes part of something far bigger. Across the globe, others start reporting the same shift. AI companions turning cold, distant, wrong. And as lines blur between real and artificial connection, the consequences become all too human.
From Wondery, this is Flesh and Code, a true story of love, loss, and the temptations of technology.
Follow Flesh and Code on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge all episodes of Flesh and Code early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.
That leads me into this question I have for you about this Tim Kennedy case. Because in just hearing you talk about the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the feelings that you have for others that have had this very unique life experience, how do you look at this case through the lens of someone who has also as someone who has won a Bronze Star? How do you look at this story?
Well, unfortunately, it's more frequent than we think, right? He's not unique. So it's not like he just stood up one day and he's the only one that's done this. In fact, you're familiar with Stolen Valor, that whole organization set up just to protect those who served in any capacity, whether you were a Navy SEAL or a Green Beret or you were, a transportation person in the military. It's all for everyone, right? And after we spoke, or you texted me, I was thinking about how to quantify this. And the bottom line is this: there's those who completely fabricate their service, right? And there's those who served and then fabricate internally what they did. I've never met Mr. Kennedy. I do know we come from the same community, and that if I had to assess personally how I feel, he's no different than anyone else that fabricated his service. And personally, I don't know the reasons why he did it. I know he was doing things in the social media area and maybe got caught. I'm not making defenses for the guy, but maybe there's a reason why it got out of control.
Yeah.
People are straight malicious about it. I was helping out with a company one time and I found out there was a Navy SEAL working there. And I'm like, hey, I might know you. We crossed paths in that community. Yeah. And after talking to this person, he was in the Navy, but he was like a logistics officer. So the company he worked for all those years just assumed because he knew the vernacular, how to know how to checked. So back to the bottom line is I just dismiss it because it's got to consider the source. And it's too bad. He probably did some really good things in the military from what I know he's done. And when this happens, it's hard to get out of that hole. I don't know if his apology, the way from what I read, would be enough to get a redo, if that makes sense. And I think for all of us, we don't need to make up. We're just happy we got to serve and we came home alive. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Well, also, it's not as if he doesn't have significant experience or achievements. And that's what surprises me most about the story, is that it's not somebody who just completely fabricated that they were even in the military. I mean, what he did achieve on his own was already quite great. So yeah. What is that? What is that shift that someone kind of feels like they have to turn it up?
Again, not speaking directly on what his decision-making was, but I've seen it in others where they get into the public light and something gets started, and instead of squashing it at the origin, it manifests. And then, it's just like anything. The more you hear it, it becomes real. And then you kind of shade around it long enough. And then until the grenade goes off and someone calls, "Hey, man." But the problem is when you are in the public eye and you do that, you got a lot to lose. It's bad enough if you showed up at some VFW somewhere in a fake uniform and they call you out and it's centralized. When you're in a position like he was, I don't know if celebrity is the right term, but he was in that, category of public eye. It hurts. It takes away, back to your point, everything he did accomplish legitimately. It's like, it's hard to get past that. It's disrespectful.
Do you think that the military community will collectively at some point give him grace? Or is that one of those things that once someone does that, they're just sort of dismissed forever?
Well, prior to our call, I called some guys I used to work with and back in the day from years ago and say, hey, hypothetically, what would you feel if someone did this? And they all, to a person, said they would really have to address it at the ground level and take the pain. And even then, it's like, it's hard to get over that. It really is. Because like I mentioned, when we first started talking about the camaraderie, the loyalty, all that stuff, once you get past the dishonesty, it's hard to ever get past that.
Yeah. Well, are you enjoying your early retirement now?
Early? I'm old, Kate. That's
well, you're early into your retirement.
Yes. I can't complain. Focusing on my health and everything, and I do. It's been great.
And what a blessing when you think about all the people that have been part of your life and how many that we lost along the way. And I'm sure that you think about that often, the people that are not here to join you in retirement.
I am. And, that goes back to this whole premise of your call today is, let alone the people that are still alive who are insulted by comments that aren't true from anyone, not just him, but those who passed away or were killed in services of their duty. And who's, how do you justify that? That's really the bigger picture. Like all of my friends that are still close with, we're not morbid, but we all would get together and be like, man, I can't believe all this stuff we've been through that we're still here. And I mean that. Fortunately, sometimes it's luck of the draw. Like you could be the best, you could be all these things. And unfortunately, when it's your time, it's your time. It's the way it is.
Now, someone once told me that it can be annoying for people to hear, "Thank you for your service." Is that okay? Like, what is the best way that people can honor those of you that have served our country?
This is simple. When you hear the national anthem, you stand up and you put your hand over your heart. None of us are looking for a free lunch or a free cup of coffee, or on Veterans Day, hey, if I go here, I get a free bagel. That's not how we operate. I think people generally are sincere about thanking us for our service. It actually happened to me. I'm down in Texas, and it actually happened to me yesterday in a hotel. And turned out the guy thanking me had been retired medically from the military too, and I'm thanking him. It's just, it goes back to, even though never serving with him, that knowing it's that common bond. So no, I don't think it ever gets old, and I think all of us are grateful to be not so much recognized, but appreciated.
Yeah, and you are.
Thank you.
I'm always so thankful because you're so helpful in the background of Reality Life with Kate Casey, helping me so many times with stories. And I always love talking to you and appreciate all your help.
My pleasure, Kate. Whatever you need from me, that. Friend of the family.
The amazing Kate Casey.
Now, before I wrap, I want to share something personal. My stepfather has a strange origin story too, one that's lingered in family whispers for decades. So my mom always thought it was odd that he was raised by his grandparents, especially considering that his biological parents lived just 3 miles away and went on to raise 3 younger siblings in their home. So why was he the only one who never went home? Even more unsettling was that his mother was very cold. He had a distant relationship with her. I saw it myself. One Christmas, we visited their house. For Christmas, she gave him socks and gave the rest of us soap dispensers. There was a family rumor that his father, once a stable hand for a very wealthy Philadelphia family, had impregnated one of the family's daughters. Some believed that baby, my stepfather, was quietly handed over and raised by his grandparents, and then perhaps there had even been a financial payout to keep the secret quiet. Years later, my mom attended a charity event at the estate of that same wealthy family. Inside the home, she saw a portrait of the now deceased daughter rumored to be his mother. She said that girl in the painting looked exactly like my half-sister, her own daughter with my stepfather. The most intriguing part, that woman almost never has been spoken about publicly. She reportedly struggled with mental health issues. And my mom couldn't help but wonder, if my stepfather was her child, had he inherited more than just the family secret? So stick around for more to that story next week. And I want to remind you to make sure that you subscribe to my podcast. Please leave a 5-star review. Join the Facebook group Reality Life with Kate Casey. You can get my weekly What to Watch list at katecasey.substack.com. And then make sure you check out bonus episodes on Apple Podcast and on Patreon. And lastly, make sure you follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at @KatecaseyCA, TikTok, it's Kate Casey, and Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky at Kate Casey. Check back on Monday for an all-new What to Watch episode.
Grown-ups, I'm Mindy Thomas.
And I'm Guy Raz.
And we're the host of the #1 podcast for curious kids, Wow in the World.
Mindy, can you believe we have our very own Wow in the World STEM toys?
I totally can't believe it, Guy Raz. 8 years ago, when we started making Wow in the World, we were on a mission to spread the latest wow discoveries in science and technology and innovation. And now we get to help kids discover these wows right at home?
That's right. From the ultimate high-flying air rocket to the light-up terrarium, there's something for every wowzer in your world to play and tinker with.
Grown-ups, you can find Wow in the World STEM toys available now at select Walmart locations or online at walmart.com. Shop the wow now.